The passengers on Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 are expecting a routine trip from Portland to Seattle, a mere 30-minute jaunt. Little do they know they're about to become a part of the greatest unsolved mysteries in U.S. history. Donning a dark suit, black tie, and carrying a briefcase, this passenger just isn't any traveler. He's about to make aviation history, vanishing into the night sky, never to be found. Welcome to the story of D.B Cooper. This is Casual History. What's up? Jeffrey, how you doing in Portugal, my friend?
I'm doing well. It's midnight over here, so a little
late
bit
pod.
of a late one. Yep, I've had issues the last few days for those listening, trying to get my setup working correctly to be able to do this.
Yeah.
At this time, that's why it's taken. I mean, we could have done it earlier, but it's taken me quite a few days to get it to work. So happy that this is working though.
You're on vacation, you know? Like, that's
not really.
not really.
No, I mean, like, I'm working while I'm here. So,
you are nice.
Yeah. So I definitely got to get up and do work in the morning, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm ready to do the pod. I thought maybe before we started, it'd be fun if I mentioned a few fun history facts about Portugal.
Ooh,
and Lisbon.
Yes, you should.
And then I'll let you take it away and we can stop and get into the story for today, which you're bringing.
Yeah.
I saw the teaser on our Instagram, Casual X History.
Nice plug. I like it.
I've also liked all the banter and the shit posting. It's been fun to see.
That's just my humor, and the more I'm finding stuff like that emu one really got me, and so I'm glad you enjoyed that. You even commented yourself. Like,
I sent you the Trojan horse one,
yes.
didn't I? Yeah.
Yep. I posted a lot
one.
more. I went down like a rabbit hole of just like all history memes that day, and it was really funny. It was really great.
Well, for those, maybe people don't care about this, but maybe I only care because I'm here now.
Jeffrey, we care.
But some fun history facts. I tried to find a few. So one of them being the foundation myth. So Lisbon, the main city in Portugal, Lisbon's ancient name is Elisipo. And according to popular myth, it was founded by someone we mentioned last week, Odysseus of Greek mythology. Yeah.
That's dope.
Thought that was cool. Let me hit you with a few other quick ones. Let's see. Here we go. Archaeological finds suggest that the area where Lisbon now stands has been inhabited since at least the Neolithic period and has been settled for the Phoenicians and Greeks before becoming part of the Roman Empire around 205 BC. I feel like I'm running a PBS show.
No, I love it. No, I'm like captivated over here. I love that stuff. I can't wait.
All right, I'll give you one more then.
Yeah.
I'll give you one more. Earthquake of 1755. This is a big one we could probably do a podcast about, but the city was largely destroyed in a massive earthquake in 1755, which was followed by tsunami and fires and profoundly impacted Portuguese culture and theological thinking at the time.
Wow. No, I like this. It doesn't sound like PBS to me, man. By the way, I said I'm looking forward to it because I'm eventually going there too. So I'm super excited to go visit and kind of experience what you're already experiencing.
Now I'll leave you wanting more with one last one.
Yes,
a fun one
bring
from
it.
Portugal.
Let's go.
Portugal is the world's largest cork producer, accounting for around 70% of the world's cork supply. So there you go, Jake.
For any Boy Meets World's fans, I immediately thought of Cork World.
True.
Wow. So the world's largest exporter of cork?
Yep.
70%.
Interesting.
Look at that. You learned something today. Pull that out at your next party, guys. Regardless of the context. Just someone's talking about football. Portugal, the largest exporter of cork.
I'm gonna end up at a Portuguese party, like with some people who are locals here, and then I'm just gonna pull that out and be like, "Hey, I found out today. Did you guys know this? You live here."
That's really good. Those are really good. Just like one-liner. Just pull it out of nowhere. I think it needs to be more of a surprise for it to make the impact that it really deserves.
So what do you think about the earthquake that happened in 1755? Yeah.
Oh God, I would love that. Seriously,
Oh.
you should try that out while you're there, and then you just tell us the results on next
I
week's
will.
pod.
Well,
That sounds
I do
great.
want to mention shameless plug before we jump into it. Casual X History on social media. Been really enjoying the reviews and comments from the last episode each week. It's kind of fun to see. So thank you guys for continuing to kind of shed some light and let us know how you're feeling. I really enjoy that. I saw some Instagram comments and Instagram DMs, and also the poll results and the just responses on the what did you think about this podcast on Spotify. It's been cool to see. So if you're good with that, Jacob, I'll let you take it from here and let's start.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. All right, Jeff. So I'm just going to kind of dive a little bit in, but let me first spin you a yarn. Have you ever heard of D.B Cooper?
Am I going to get in trouble if I say no?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a pretty popular story, though.
Yeah.
So maybe to some people who are listening.
This one, no frame comes to mind. Maybe I missed this class in history, but please enlighten me.
It's actually a really cool story, and I'll actually, it actually came from Dad. I had heard this story before, but I had literally was on a call with him, and he was like, he's of course binging all of our podcasts on his way home, and which I think is great. And then he was like, you should really do the story of D.B Cooper. And so I was like, okay. And when I was looking through my large list of stuff to do, this was kind of the first one to pop up. So I'm kind of excited to talk about this and just really dive in.
So you're dedicating this podcast to our shared father.
That's right, Father. This is for you.
Wow.
And yeah, isn't that beautiful?
That's great.
What a beautiful way to start off the podcast. It's been great. So let's go ahead and dive in here. So I'm going to paint the scene a little bit for you, Jeffrey. So it's November 24th, 1971, a typical autumn day in the Pacific Northwest where the mist lightly shrouds Portland's International Airport. Back then, air travel was worlds apart from today. Security was a mere formality, and a simple ID check would grant you entry into an adventure above the clouds. Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 was ready for takeoff, its wheels gripping the runway, engines humming with anticipation. Inside, 36 passengers are settling into their seats, blissfully unaware that they are about to become unwitnessing characters to an audacious drama that will forever be etched into aviation and criminal history. Now, how's that for a setup?
It's great, and I do know this story.
You do?
Yes.
Good. No, I'm excited to discuss it with you because it's very interesting.
Cannot believe that I didn't recognize that D.B Cooper. Of course. Sorry, continue.
No, I love it. So, among the passengers sits a man who could easily blend into a crowd. He's not too tall, not too short, wearing a neatly pressed business suit, a white shirt, and a slender black tie. His name on this ticket reads Dan Cooper, an unremarkable name for a man whose actions would soon be anything but. As the flight takes off, the airline wings slice through the gathering clouds. Cooper does what many do. He orders a drink, bourbon, and soda. So I thought that was important to add, just to add a little spice to the story.
A little Bond moment.
Yeah, a little James Bond moment. So you see, what sets Dan Cooper apart from his fellow passengers is not his attire or his choice of beverage. It's what lies hidden within the unassuming briefcase that sits innocently at his feet. Probably just had, Beanie Babies or something in there.
Beanie Babies. That's an interesting reference.
Yeah, you're right. That's two 90s. I should have came up with something more 70s based.
We're in the 70s, Jake. Come on.
We got to get in the mode.
He's got that green lettuce, the devil's lettuce.
The devil's lettuce in the briefcase.
And I'm not talking weed. I'm talking money.
Then talking money. So it contains neither dull reports of a traveling businessman nor the vacation plans of a globetrotter. Instead, it holds the intricate tools of extortion and the promise of one of the most bewildering mysteries that would come to stump investigators for generations to come. So Dan Cooper's briefcase is a Pandora's box. Once it's opened, it will unleash a set of events so meticulously planned, yet so audacious that it will capture the collective imagination of the world, permanently securing Cooper's place as a legend in the skies and a ghost in the machine of law enforcement. So the stage is set. as Flight 305 ascends towards its cruising altitude, so does the tension. Cooper takes a sip of his bourbon, leans back into his seat, and prepares to turn a routine flight into an unparalleled saga of daring and disappearance.
You know what he said this day? He
What'd he
said,
say?
I'm the main character today. This
He did.
is my time.
I felt like the story set up right here felt that accurately. Like I could feel like I'm there, you know? I feel like I sense his mode.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's the main character in the story.
He's got a suit on. I assume from what I know about the story, he's got black sunglasses on. He's feeling cool. He's
feeling like a
collected.
badass.
Yep.
I'm ready. The plane levels off, humming steadily at 10,000 feet above sea level. Outside, the world is a tapestry of mountains and forests bathed in the fading light of a late afternoon. A tranquil backdrop that sharply contrasts the scene unfolding within the aircraft's cabin. Dan Cooper leans forward, his flags down, and he flags down Florence Schaffner, one of the flight attendants. His demeanor is calm, but his eyes betray an intensity and a focus. He hands her a note and a small slip of paper that will shatter the peace of Flight 305 and ignite one of the most mesmerizing mysteries of the 20th century. Miss, you better look at that note. I have a bomb, Cooper whispers, making sure only she hears. Schaffner unfolds the piece of paper and reads its contents. Her eyes widen. The note is a list of demands: $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a refueling truck waiting in Seattle, the flight's destination. So first off, that seems a little low, but it is, maybe it's the 70s. You know, how much is $200K in today's money? You know,
200,000 is pretty specific. But yeah, it's a lot of money still. I mean, the thing that obviously gets my attention off the bat is 4 parachutes.
Yeah.
And then him thinking, or at least from this note, assuming that he's going to be able to get away in a car in Seattle is interesting. So
the fact that he let the flight attendants know also means that this is fully planned. That he's making those intentions with the fact that he's going to land, and that he has how does he not know that just the FBI isn't just going to surround the plane and just
well, he's got a bomb.
I mean, I guess so.
That's his calling card is, you better take back
that's
off
the only
because I
thing?
got a bomb.
He's not invincible.
I mean, it's most times, most simple plan works.
Interesting. So obviously, whenever he tells the flight attendant this, Cooper then opens his briefcase, just enough to give her a glimpse of what appears to be a bomb. A tangle of red cylinders and wires. The Pandora's box is open, and its contents threaten to turn Flight 305 into a tomb in the sky.
Yikes.
Yeah, so Schaffner rushes to the cockpit and informs the pilots. The cabin is silent, but for the low murmur of the engines and an uneasy rustle of the passengers, unaware of the danger looming just rows away. So obviously they didn't want to let all the passengers know what the heck was going on. The pilots immediately radio air traffic control, and within minutes the FBI is mobilized. So the FBI, they're going to get him, right? I mean, come on, it's the FBI. Time grinds to a nerve-wracking crawl as the authorities scramble to meet Cooper's demands, every second ticking away like a heartbeat in the dark. Finally, the plane lands in Seattle, and the tension on board is electric. Passengers have been told that they've been delayed due to a minor technical or mechanical difficulty, a half-truth designed to keep them calm while buying time for the FBI. A vehicle approaches the plane, its headlights cutting through the gloom of a rainy night, and it's carrying the ransom and the parachutes. So Cooper inspects them very quickly. So he really just dismisses them. He just kind of looks at them lightly, and satisfied, he allows the passengers and some crew members to leave the plane. But the drama was far from over. So as the plane refuels, Cooper outlines his next demand, a flight to Mexico City, slow and under 10,000 feet. So you can kind of guess where this is going, with the rear doors unlocked. As the aircraft readies for takeoff, and the investigators can only wonder, who is Dan Cooper? What's driving him to do this audacious act of aerial piracy? And most crucially, what is his endgame? Little do they know that the answer to these questions will leave them stunned and grappling with the enigma that will captivate the world for decades to come. So as the plane's wheels screeched away against the runway, it began its ascent. The skies darkened as night swallows the last rays of daylight, Cooper dons his parachute, fashions it tightly, and inches near the edge of the back of the plane. And then somewhere between Seattle and Reno, in the pitch black sky over the mountain wilderness of the Pacific Northwest, Cooper does the unthinkable. And that's where we break to at.
Wow. I mean, the unthinkable is pretty thinkable.
It's pretty thinkable. It is pretty predictable.
He's got a plane, and he's got
money. But after
money.
that, Jeffrey, it gets good, okay?
Oh, no, I'm sure it does.
Stick around.
The one question, though.
Yeah.
Are we waiting to do all this after the ad break?
It's okay. We're cool. Let's talk about it.
Well, my one question is, the FBI is negotiating with terrorists. Is that a theme isn't that a thing that you're not supposed to do?
I think that's a thing. I think
did that happen before. Later than this? Like, is this one of the reasons? Is he one of the reasons where they go, we got to stop doing this?
We got to stop. D.B Cooper, man, last straw. He was the one. No, I don't know. I don't know if that's like an after thing that happens.
Like,
you should look
brought
that up.
on that position of like,
I don't know.
We don't negotiate with terrorists. Because that's
I don't know
what
if it was
is.
the FBI. I mean, that's right. I guess so. He has basically hijacked a plane, holding them hostage, and has a bomb in his briefcase.
It's terrorism, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and he's threatening the worst of outcomes. But the one question that I would have obviously is, 4 parachutes, just one man. Why?
Yeah.
Maybe he wanted to make it seem like a bigger operation. He seemed to be, again, the initial demands seemed to be calculated. I'm going to do step 1, step 2, step 3. And all very, again, straight to the point. If I threaten to have a bomb, they're not going to come on. I'm going to give someone a note. They're going to grab my stuff for me, bring it on. I'm then going to jump out of the plane somewhere in the pitch black dark. I mean, the 70s, man, a lot of people probably got lost in the 70s in the dark and between Reno and Seattle, and they weren't.
Maybe he just thought they would forget, no one would remember. Just me jumping.
It's not a bad plan. The one question would be, he would have to. My initial thought would be, I'd be checking my bag for a tracking device, and also like the parachute and all that. But I guess maybe that's not that common now. But that'd be number one. Number 2 would be, how do they know? So do they make it? I guess we'll figure it out after the ad break. But between Seattle and Reno, how do they get between then? Because if he's at the back of the plane and you only have a few people and they're all at the front, and you're saying, don't turn around, like stay up there, don't turn around, and he just jumps at any point in time, you're not going to know until you go find out. It's like, finding out your kid's gone in the room. You're knocking on the door and the window is open. Like, when did he leave? I don't know. Between 10 and 12. But yeah, maybe that's how they got that actually. But,
well, there's a lot of mystery around the exact location of where he was at, like plane wise, as far as like, obviously it's leading up to a point where he's probably going to jump out of the back of the plane.
He's probably going to jump,
probably predictive. I don't know. I'm just making it up. But
there's some I think there is some evidence of remnants of his jump we can get into after this ad break, right?
Yes, there's a lot of stuff to talk through that as well. So I do have a lot of evidence, as well as even some theories on what could have happened to D.B.
This is like we turned into a crime murder podcast.
I'm for it. I'm for it.
Except there's no murder, and it's just someone doing a heist. We should just do a heist. Heist podcast only. Only talk about, how many are there, I wonder, to talk about?
What, just heists only?
Yeah.
Will we run out?
I'm gonna ask Google while we're in the ad break. Let's go to ad break, and I'll
let's
Google
do it.
That.
All right, we'll be back. Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got the platform that allows you to make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and even earn money. All in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters allows you to record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. And then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else that podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify, and with Spotify Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since I discovered Spotify for podcasters, I feel like having options like video podcasts and question and answer polls has allowed me to be creative on a whole nother level. I highly recommend that you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. And we are back from that ad. Thank you for listening to that, by the way, as we continue our spiral into heists, I guess, Jeff. How many heists did you find?
And D.B Cooper,
Yes.
I do want to talk about the motivation of a man that does this.
Okay.
And I think that'd be an interesting line of thought. But also, I did look up how many heists have ever happened. I didn't get any answers, but you know what I did find? How many heists actually happen a year? So like in current times, approximately 4,000 bank robberies per year in the U.S. alone.
Wow.
So there probably is a lot of heists to
that's
talk
plenty
about.
That's plenty of podcasts, but I'm sure not all of them are very entertaining.
Well,
I'm sure they're
not all of them got away. We've recorded them.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I'd be curious to know how many successful, in quotes, successful.
Yeah, and that's in the modern age, man, where we have cameras and all this technology. Can you only imagine, like back in the day?
Yeah, man. Can't imagine being in the 70s, and you could probably get away with a lot in the 70s.
I mean, even just hearing about like how different the airport security is, which for obvious reasons, but like just how different that is. Like all you needed was your ID. That's it. You're good to go. No other concerns even necessary.
Not to tie back to my Portugal trip, but it's exactly like taking a train.
Yeah.
Here in like it was when I was in Paris, and when I'm here, I booked the train. I did add my passport number to the train ticket like ahead of time.
Okay.
But it was, I believe, only because I was a U.S. citizen booking the train. But
right.
I showed up to the train station. Nothing. I just got my
That's it.
baguette and my
my baguette, and I headed
my
off.
croissant and coffee, and I
Dude,
walked
you're
to
in
the
heaven,
station
aren't you?
and got on.
You're in heaven
absolutely.
with all the pastries there. For people that haven't heard some previous podcasts where we probably talked about this, that is like your thing. Like you love pastries. And so
I mean, I think any sane person does.
For sure.
But
would you
tolerate it?
Would you say that's your favorite dessert though? Like if in all desserts is like pastries your one thing?
Yeah, that's my realm of expertise.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, my lunches the last 2 days, not in a row, but have been like I've got a thing of croissants, got a prosciutto, I got cheese, and I got some jam.
Dude, that sounds
just
amazing.
Making me some prosciutto, jam, and cheese sandwiches for lunch, and it hits every time.
That sounds.
But that's
like
not why we're here, Jake. We're here to explore the man in the 70s who's stealing $200,000, which could buy you a whole
what could
car,
you buy?
Probably. No,
yeah, you should.
In
okay.
modern day money.
while I continue this story and we dive right back in, I need you to look up how much 200K could buy us in the 70s. I need to know.
Okay,
I need to know so we can have some context here. It's still a lot of money, but man, like I need to know. So as the engines roar and the plane ascends higher and higher, leaving the twinkling lights of Seattle, inside the cabin, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The flight crew on Boeing 727 couldn't help but cast anxious glances toward the back of the plane where Cooper is preparing for something imaginable, but we know what it is. Each member of the crew feels the weight of the unknown and the suffocating sense of dread. Cooper, donned in a business suit, glasses now removed, and the parachute strapped on, issues his final instructions to the crew. The cabin pressure needs to be adjusted, the landing gear fixed in the takeoff position, and most alarmingly, the rear air stair needs to be partially lowered during the flight. Cooper's request challenges reason and defies logic, but the crew complies, their hands shaking as they input those commands. The plane roars through the windswept sky, a lone entity soaring over a sprawling wild wilderness below. Cooper ties the bag with the ransom money around his waist, takes a deep breath, and moves forward into the lower rear air stair. Sorry, I'm using the wrong phrase. But you can imagine it. Like, right, obviously he's flying super low, but also that would be terrifying. Like you're literally jumping into the pitch black darkness.
I would
with
be
just a parachute.
really interested to hear if anyone out there flies planes or has flown a plane before. What if any of this makes sense to what he's about to do, or if this, because my immediate reaction is from someone who doesn't know how to fly planes, is this something to keep the crew occupied, out of the way, and to do things that again cause confusion when he knows that this is going to be investigated. Like if this is calculated, you're knowing that this is going to be followed up on. If you had a step 1, step 2, step 3 in your own plan, and anyone on board can follow that logic and know where you're at, and like trying to cause confusion and like, why is he doing these things? And I'm having to go move around the cabin, and you're just putting basically more roadblocks of wait, and then I had to go do this, so I didn't see him and what he did at this point in time. I don't know. That would be my reaction to it. Maybe that's not his reasoning. Maybe it's an actual, flight reason that he's having them do these certain maneuvers. But I'd be really interested if anyone out there flies planes. Please let us know.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds very calculated as for someone who's going to jump, right? So he wants to be not crazy high in the air. Number one, pretty obvious. That first of all, too, something that I found out while researching this was that planes with an actual like air stair in the back that lowers down is incredibly rare, even at this time. And so the fact that he even he chose that before he got on his flight.
Oh,
he
wow.
knew this plane, plane type was going to have this in the back as well. So that just kind of speaks to his mind. So this wasn't some fly by night, hey, I'm just going to do this crazy thing. For sure, this was crazily planned down to the T. And also something else that I found out that you kind of mentioned at the very beginning was why 4 parachutes? The theory has it is that from the witnesses that were there was, first of all, he took 1 parachute, of course, but the rest of them he tied around the money that he'd gotten from the trip, right? So that the $200K that he was doing. So he was tying separately parachutes for those to come down with him. Right. And so that's the reason for the 4 parachutes.
So not all at once. He was dropping the money separately from himself.
I mean, he was, but he wanted the money to have its own parachute because it was a lot of weight. Okay,
I see what you mean. Also, to follow back up for context on how much is $200,000 worth in today's money, 1.5 million.
Wow. Okay.
See that?
Wow, dude, you'd be set. You'd be set, man.
For a while. I mean,
a while,
in the 70s, for sure. 1.5 in today's economy, you can buy half a carton of milk and
in this economy,
eggs.
Man. Yeah, no, a carton of eggs.
If you're lucky, you get out of the grocery store with $100 and 4 items. But inflation. Dude. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Run for politics? Ha! I'm not even 40. But yeah, D.B. Cooper. God. I mean, yeah, this is not a. I mean, that's pretty obvious. This is not a half-baked scheme. This is planned. No. He knew the plane. He knew the time. He knew the details. He knew how he was going to do it.
Right.
And I'm just more curious, I guess, as we get to this ending. I know there's a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of evidence that we can kind of tie to. From what I remember about this story, which we'll jump into for those listening, there's a lot of mystery surrounding even some of the evidence that they find about D.B. Cooper and what goes on after he jumps, and obviously people try to figure out and find him. But I'll let you take it from there, Jake. Where are we at now? He sets the stage. He's got the air stair down. The people moving around. They're at 10,000 feet. It's pitch black out.
Yep, and they were saying too, obviously with the speed, even though it was low for a plane, it was still raining and pitch black dark, howling winds. It did not seem like a friendly time to jump out of the back of a plane, but that's what he did. So then with a final glance back to the crew, who were the last to see him.
Sorry to interrupt. I have one last note. Do you think this is his first time jumping out of a plane?
We're going to talk about some of this evidence here too, because my first thought was okay, well, after this event happens, right? who did the research on the past of DB Cooper? Like, did he have any priors? Was he like criminal record? We'll definitely be hitting into that too, because that's also a little interesting piece as well.
Okay.
To this little puzzle.
Sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
You're okay. So obviously the next step is he jumps out of the plane. So Cooper jumps into the night, swallowed by the darkness, and vanishes. The wind screams as he plunges, the parachute billowing open above him, and the plane, now lighter, lurches slightly forward as if acknowledging the departure. The cockpit's radio crackles to life, air traffic control asking for updates, but what can they say? Cooper is gone, dissolved into the night like a phantom, leaving behind only questions, and a Boeing 727 circling aimlessly over the vast expanse of the Pacific Northwest. So the pilot turns the plane around to make an emergency landing in Reno, Nevada. As the aircraft touches down, the authorities swarm it, guns drawn and searchlights piercing through the night, but they find nothing. No Cooper, no parachute, just an empty rear air stair dangling and an unanswered question. So no parachute or no parachute either. So
right. No parasites.
Absolutely nothing.
Honestly, you want to check
Thank
the
God,
plane
honestly.
for parasites. That's like the first thing I do when I get on a commercial flight. I check my seat for a parasite.
It's really funny that we host a podcast because I feel like that is a constant like theme of mine. Is like I will do really good at reading, and then I will hit a word that's super easy and just totally mispronounce it. And so that's just very classic Jacob there. Very classic me.
You know what our name is?
What?
You know what our name is, right? Casual History. People who listen to us know that we're doing our best here. We're doing what the listener hopefully can get from us is that they don't have to do any of this research. We can just tell it to them, you know?
Yeah.
Even in
totally.
our missteps and miswords. So
maybe I meant to say it. Maybe that was the word I wanted to say.
I think you should have just blindly went with confidence on parasite and then just added parachute, and it would have been a bit better. But
yeah, that's okay. That's all right. That's all right. Everybody understands, so that's good. But that's literally it. Is Cooper vanishes and like vanishes without a trace. No one can find him. FBI, nothing is aboard that can track him to it. So they're kind of just left with answers, right? Trying to figure out
FBI
what the heck's happening.
Not drop a tracking device into one of those parachutes. How do you have the time for them to land, for the FBI to be mobilized, to get $200,000 from some bank account or some FBI warehouse and not put a piece of technology in it? Were they just worried that he was going to blow it up if they found it? Like,
I don't know. But that's also, what's interesting to me is too, like, first of all, like all planes have those black boxes. I don't know if there was like a time and era that wasn't the case. Maybe, I mean, I'm not really sure when that actually
they could track maybe where he dropped, but they can't track obviously what happens after. I would assume like you can estimate maybe where he's falling from, but I'm curious why. Maybe I'm wrong. This is going to be so funny if they definitely had tracking devices in the 70s. I'm about to look that up because I'm about to sound super dumb for even questioning it.
No, it's not. And that's also a thing of contention that I was reading was even though some of the flight crew was kind of guessing where they were at and like what exact location they were, like he basically dropped into woods, like in the middle of nowhere. And so like even that, there's still debates on exactly the exact location that he jumped, even based on witness testimony. Yeah. So there's a lot of confusion going on with this whole process. And the fact that he just vanishes without anything and it feels that planned is what's so crazy about it.
Yeah, and also I'm very dumb because tracking devices were not invented, were not fully implemented into the late 70s. So
there you go.
72, he caught right before the FBI had his ass on a silver platter with GPS. And
track him down with dogs, man.
Yeah, he got lucky. He was 6 years ahead of the curve.
Right.
He saw the future. He knew what he had to do. But okay, yeah, so you have no tracking. You just have a whereabouts of where he dropped.
Right. Even just like vague whereabouts, because obviously as a plane is flying, like you don't like maybe some of the pilots might have known certain exact locations, but it's still just like a general search area, right? Where he could have possibly dropped. And so there's no like exact pinpointed area for them to really look.
Yeah. I always am also curious about I mean, I don't know how this world works at all, so forgive me if I'm speaking incorrectly. Anybody who's listening who cares.
It's casual history, Jeffrey.
But okay, here's the thought. Okay, you have a
Yeah.
man who's clearly self-conscientious, conscientious, and
Conscientious,
he
yes.
has a goal in mind. He's not. He wouldn't. It would come across suicidal to the not average man to take on something like this, right? It could seem suicidal, but is he actually in pursuit of a suicidal outcome? Right. So for instance, he shows that he has a bomb as a threat. That means
But who
he's
knows if it
going
was
down
real
with
even?
it. I don't think exactly. That's where I'm going with this. For
Right.
one, if it's a fake bomb or it's a real bomb, it doesn't matter. If it's a real one, does
Yeah.
it sound like it's a man who is maybe he is desperate? I guess you can attach the word desperation to it, and that could cause you to do it. But if let's say you don't negotiate with him, right, and you don't give him the 200,000,
Right.
does a man like this who wants this and planned this and is desperate for the money for some reason, he's got a plan to try to live and to try to do something with this money?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just the purpose of it maybe doesn't connect to desperation, and so then
right.
I don't know.
Why
how
would you
hostage-
plan? Why would you
Yeah.
plan this meticulously? This isn't a fly by night thing. So that makes me think very clearly that his intention was he was going to make it out. He was going to get away with this. Like, you wouldn't also ask for money if it wasn't like that's a worldly possession, right? Like,
Yeah.
it didn't seem like this was like just a person just doing this chaotically. Like, very much so, felt super planned, very meticulous. Whatever happened to him when he jumped out of that plane, that was his intention. Like, that was his game plan. Now, whether
For
it
sure.
fully came to fruition, we don't know. But that's kind of where the mystery kind of starts with this.
And
So,
I guess in cash back then, you could get away with because my brain goes, he's not spending it all at once, obviously, if he's not been found. And if he ends up with the money, $200,000, you can't just start living a life of luxury. And also, you get into cash in USD. So, would the plan be to go to Canada or to Mexico and then exchange for the currency? Like, that's a lot of money. I don't know.
Yeah,
like
who
that
knows?
logistics of that part of it, like the getaway part, like existing with it without any trace,
right.
seems a bit more difficult than even maybe parachuting at 10,000 feet for the first time in the middle of the rain.
Yeah. I mean, that's also something that was written about was the snow. Like, it was not only raining, but where he dropped, it predicted overnight that it got a ton of snow. And so whether that was his plan or not, like, that is an insanely like dangerous endeavor to be out in the wilderness, just, with nothing besides your coat and your sunglasses and 200K, like, trying to make it to civilization or find, somewhere safe. Like, I think that sounds pretty daunting from the outset to me. Like, maybe he intended that it would be easier from that point on, but I really think that he may have underestimated the environment that he was dropping into as well. And who knows, like, maybe he wasn't predicting the weather that night. Maybe he just decided to go through it with it anyway.
I think if you look at our weather system now.
Yeah.
We don't get it right. You're talking back in the 70s. He also is jumping out. He probably doesn't know. I would assume he's not tracking where they're at in the sky.
No.
So he's taking a leap into the darkness completely as much as anyone else who is guessing where he would end up. He didn't know at that time either.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
what's the wrap up here? What are some of the details at the quote unquote conclusion? What do we have?
Yeah, so that's what I'm excited about. So let's talk through just like the conclusion, theories, and any evidence that's been captured from this story, because I think there's a lot to cover here, and I'm excited to kind of just like discuss it with you. So as the wheels of the Boeing 727 touched down in Reno, the world was left to grapple with a story that defied belief. D.B Cooper had vanished, leaving behind a mystery that would span decades, spark endless speculation, and forever carve his name into criminal lore. Despite the exhaustive efforts of the FBI, whose year-long investigation combed through over thousands of suspects, the identity and fate of Cooper remains elusive as the man itself. So one of the other stories, too, that eventually came to light was in 1980, a young boy named Brian Ingram was playing on the sandy banks of the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington, and he unearthed 3 bundles of decaying $20 bills totaling $5,800. The serial numbers matched those of the ransom money, reigniting public interest and spurring new theories. Yet this clue only deepened the mystery. How did the money end up there? Was it intentionally buried or merely dropped during Cooper's perilous descent? The theories abound. Some say that Cooper was an experienced skydiver who meticulously planned his escape and lived out his years underneath a new identity. Others hypothesize that he was an amateur propelled by desperation and audacity, who likely perished that night, his body swallowed up by the wilderness below. So these questions multiply. Did Cooper possess the specialized knowledge in aviation? Right. That was also the point right here that it's trying to make, is that how did he possess the specialized knowledge to know to select a Boeing 727 due to the back stairs where he can jump, right? Like, how does he know the airplane type that he needed? How did he manage to leap from the plane into freezing temperatures and a raging storm, especially when no parachute expert has ever endorsed the viability of such a jump? So there's a lot of question marks here. In 2016, the FBI officially closed the active investigation into Cooper's case, citing a lack of credible leads, yet the legacy of D.B. Cooper is far from closed. Armchair detectives continue to pore over the details, poring through forums, documentaries, grasping for the elusive truth. Annual events like CooperCon, which is crazy that happens, serves as a testament to the enduring fascination of this audacious act. So one of the side notes that I kind of pulled from this as well, because I was very interested, first of all, has there been any claims on people's deathbeds like, hey, I was D.B. Cooper? Because I could have sworn I had heard something about that. And so I kind of went digging a little bit more and learned that the FBI actually investigated over 1,000 suspects over the years. So a lot of people. But no one has been definitively proven as D.B. Cooper.
So we don't even know who he was prior to the jump.
Yeah, here's the thing, Jeffrey. D.B. Cooper is a pseudonym. That's not his real name.
Right.
So there's no way to track his past, even to go back and see if he had a criminal history, if this was a thing that he had, what was his expertise, nothing. We have literally nothing.
But that would mean that there's no missing persons report. He would have no close family that would notice he's missing, right? Let's say he's completely a lone wolf.
That's an interesting point.
That would be the only. There's 2 options or 3 options maybe. One being completely lone wolf. Second being they were aware. Anyone he was close to was aware. Because if not, if you're close with me and I don't talk to you and I'm just gone the next day.
Yeah.
You're going to go, what the hell? And I would assume file some sort of report of, hey, this person's missing. And maybe they did, and maybe it got lost in the shuffle of the time if someone did report a man missing or their friend missing. But it doesn't, does it lead in that way? I don't know.
But think about this, though, right? He was under a pseudonym. Maybe no one knew that that's what he was going to do, that he got this fake ID, he was going to board this plane. This was his plan all along. His family, he went under a completely different name. So even if he was missing and he didn't show up for dinner the next day or something like that, tip them off, they might file a missing report on a random man. That could be anybody. There's probably
that's
hundreds
who I'd
of those.
But I would look at, there's 2 things. I would either go, would this person likely live nearby where he got on the plane? Or did he travel? Again, if he's so calculated,
if he was
this
smart,
whole thing he would travel cross country in some random unmarked car in a random place to do this thing. And then he's really just a fish in the sea that you don't even know.
Yeah. And it also begs the question with how detailed his plans seem to be and with his knowledge of the situation, what he wanted, all that process, had he done something similar before? Was this his very first time committing something so big like this? Or has he done this in the past underneath his real name? There's so many questions there that kind of, beg to be answered, because there is a lot of thought process that goes into this. This isn't just a, hey, I have a bomb, give me money. It's like there's a
So-
lot more moving pieces.
If we fill in the blank of what's not simple, but maybe like our version of D.B. Cooper would be, where did this take place again? Sorry, what airfield? You said 1972. What town did he pick up in? Seattle?
Yeah, so in Seattle. I think that's where they were landing here. So
Landing. So where did they take off? Do we know where they?
Right. So it was a routine trip from Portland to Seattle. So
So
that was
Portland.
where they landed.
Okay.
And then he was going to go to, I believe, New Mexico, I think was the next stop
Right.
that he hopped the plane for.
So in our story version of D.B. Cooper, the timeline would be what? He's a man that lives on the East Coast, somewhere nowhere near Portland,
Maybe.
and he's either down on his luck enough to want this and need this, or he's just
Or he's been a
ballsy
criminal
enough
before.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, he's a criminal and then thinks of this plan. He's a smart criminal, one way or the other. He's a detailed criminal. He gets a car, drives all the way to Portland, or finds his way over to Portland somehow. Lone wolf type, does this whole act and then vanishes and lives a new life. Like,
Yeah.
does that seem unheard of? I don't know. That makes it
Sounds
feel
like a
weird
man
to
that
me.
wants to start over, man.
Right,
If that.
which it makes me think lone wolf, but
I don't know, man. No, you mean like whether he acted by himself in planning this, or he had like people that were going to come
No.
pick him up, or there was more details of the plan?
for some reason my brain is stuck on the idea that if you or anyone listening just vanished, someone would notice. No matter if you're more lonely and only have one friend or a couple friends, or you have a big family or you have no family, I feel like someone would notice.
Well, I
But
mean,
maybe I'm wrong.
we had a previous podcast on a guy that like no one knew his identity for his entire life. We had like a whole podcast on that. Like, it is possible that like people do slip through the cracks. And again, like you can almost understand that if you think about it in the way of like they did report it, and maybe there was like, multiple reports of missing people that day. Like they don't know that that's D.B. Cooper. Obviously, that's a place to look first. But like,
That's where my brain goes.
but you look first in that state. He could have lived in all of the U.S. and went there specifically to do this act. Like you're
I would
talking about combing
imagine-
the entire country
I would
for
imagine
a missing person.
there's probably there's going to be a wild guess. I'm just throwing shit out here.
Yeah.
I would imagine if you pulled records of missing persons report a week to 2 weeks after this event happened across all of the United States, do you think you'd get more than 10,000 missing persons?
Well, that's what I wonder too, of like with like today's technology to be able to like sift through all that data. Like if it was reported, if there's records of it, that's where I would be interested to kind of go. If people were like listening to this podcast and they're interested in this, or they're a part of those forums of like trying to figure out what really happened to this man, like that's where my first place would look. Like exactly that. Who are the missing reports? Maybe it wasn't reported. Like it could still slip through the cracks, but there have been some people that have been predicted to be D.B. Cooper over the years. And so I actually
Right.
have them written down. So one of the most more notable suspects was Richard McCoy Jr., who was a Vietnam veteran, experienced skydiver. Also, another person was Kenneth Christensen, who worked out of the Northwest Orient Airlines and had a background in explosives. So there's a couple really big names there that have like been suspected, but there's no like concrete evidence placing them at that moment. Like most of the evidence is kind of circumstantial, right? They're trying to look for someone with specialities on,
Right, they're trying to
planes,
attach
all that kind of
skill
stuff.
set to the situation. I would
Right.
almost think the bomb and that feels like a con man. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
you would be like that sounds conny, that I'm gonna blow it up. Just maybe I'm wrong, but that would be my assumption.
That's
The
what we're here
only
to do,
skill,
Jeffrey. We're
the
here
only
to
skill
speculate.
set you can actually tie to him is he's detailed.
Yeah.
He can plan. He knows how to pick a plane. He can skydive. I would
Right.
assume. Well, see, that's even an assumption because
Yeah, it is.
what if
we
this
don't
is
know.
his first time? He could be he could just be a
Yeah.
super genius of a planner and like had this really wild thought and planned it out and did it. Like, he doesn't have to have that skill. We know he likes bourbon.
That's about it. That's all we know about the man.
like-
His preference in drinks.
Someone search every bourbon.
every
Bought.
bourbon that was ever drank past this date. I need to know. Honestly, I mean, I think at this point it's like grasping at straws because there's so much unknown, different time, lots of different factors.
See, again, but this is where my brain goes, okay? And I'm sure someone's done this. But couldn't you cross-reference? Again, I'm harping on this.
I love
missing persons
this.
report from for like a month after this happened with these people who claim to be them.
Yeah,
like,
but I'm sure that's thousands of people.
But these suspects, for instance, like Richard McCoy Jr., can't you just see? Did anyone ever? If you know his real name, go back. Did anyone notice that he left? Was he gone his whole life? You know, they're suspects obviously for a reason and not like the answer to this. So. Maybe they did this and they found out it wasn't him, but
yeah. So apparently, like anybody so far that has claimed to be D.B Cooper, it's been again not confirmed. There's been no like tying that person to the actual scene or that event itself. So it's still very much a mystery and up in the air. In fact, like characters and storylines inspired by Cooper has even been in like TV series like Prison Break and The Blacklist and Breaking Bad, one of your favorite shows. Books and films explore the what ifs, what might have been, forever embedding Cooper's story into the realm of collective intrigue. In Oregon, the very backdrop of this audacious crime, the legend of Cooper, as it is as much as part of the landscape as the Cascade Mountains. His tale serves as an internal mystery and a lasting enigma, and a lingering question mark that punctuates the sentence of humans' curiosity. So as time marches on now, new leads may emerge, technology may advance, and theories may evolve, but until that fateful day when the last piece of the puzzle falls into place, the saga of D.B. Cooper remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, a tantalizing enigma that continues to captivate and confound. So basically, we're left to wonder.
I don't accept it. I'm going to.
I know you don't like open-ended stories, but that's the part of that makes it so crazy is that still to this day we don't know.
The money in the 80s. We didn't even touch on that. How big of a clue that is to if they're still bundled up. That seems to be that it fell out and fell in the mud would be my assumption.
Or he left some of it behind and he couldn't carry it all with him. He was one man. You know, if there was multiple bags, like I don't even know if there was multiple bags of the money.
True. Maybe he hid it on his way trekking out with the money, knowing he'd come back to it or knowing he would have to come back to it. So he hid it because he couldn't carry it all. But what do? You hear it, you hide it in $5,800, like 5,800 bundles. Like that doesn't make sense. Why that number? Why?
Or some flew out. Like who knows? It hit a tree. Like there's so many options where this could have happened. Either he left some behind. Maybe he knew he was having a trek and he was like, all right, I can leave a little bit of this weight behind. I can't carry it all. Maybe it fell out during when it fell, right? Like he jumped out of the plane. Obviously, like he's still 10,000 feet in the air. Like that's a long fall. Who knows?
But you're telling me you do all of this. You plan all of this so meticulously. You don't plan for how heavy the money's going to be or how to get it out. I don't, that doesn't.
I mean, that might be the only part of this that isn't in his hands, really. Like how the money shows up to him, technically. But again, there's lots of factors. Like, again, I think that is intriguing too. The fact that they found the money and they tied the serial numbers back to the actual money that was stolen is wild. Like that right there. But also when you think about like the advances of DNA evidence, right? Like that's where my brain goes. But obviously, like, what are you matching it against, right? Every single missing person in that moment. Like, you know how long that would take?
I don't know if you can even get I don't think you could even get a DNA sample off that thing this far gone, right? Like, and what are you going to get if it's just mud and he's not bleeding, right? I don't think you
I don't know, man. Else. Science, okay?
You're like,
I don't know.
You're like, you can track me back to England. You can track me. You can track this money.
Maybe. I said advances in technology, Jeffrey. I didn't say, like right now, but you're right.
We need to get 23andMe on the case.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Did he take a DNA test? Did he ever swab? Yeah, but that's what makes it crazy. It's just like a human in my mind, just vanishing into thin air after doing something so crazy is wild to me.
I respect it because
trail.
No one got hurt.
Yeah, I guess so. That's an interesting point to make too. He let some of the hostages go, but he had to keep some so that way they would be listening to him.
Only what was needed.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like excess. It seemed like this is what I need. The plane needs to fly, and I need this person to be able to do this while I'm doing X,
Yeah. I mean, of course, this is conjecture, but like I agree. It's to me, like my perception of reading this story sounds very much like a man that doesn't care about that, about hurting any. You respect the hustle. Everybody's got a side gig these days. Apparently,
that's my review. I'm like, walked out with a cool 1.5.
Yeah, no big deal.
Maybe that's what his life led up to. Obviously, it was the greatest thing he ever did. Because we're still talking about it.
That's true. They have was it Cooper Con? They said that they celebrate. Like you commit a crime and then they celebrate you. Have a national day with your name in it. Like, I mean, come on, you can't really get better than that.
Committed something that was frowned upon. Okay,
right? Frowned upon. Stealing large sums of money from the FBI. Frowned upon.
Like they don't steal it from us.
Yeah, I guess. I
don't want to get political.
Like we could go into that, but I don't know if we want to dive into.
Now we go to Jeffrey's segment, batshit ideas.
Yes, let's go. I've been waiting for this segment. No, that's
Speaking
really awesome,
of segments. Thanks for this. Thanks for this story this week. Thanks for bearing with us, everyone, for the day late that this is going to be coming out than our typical Tuesday morning. The time change is really kind of screwed with me and trying to get this to work, but appreciate you guys hanging in there. Thanks, Jacob, for also being patient and getting this story together.
Of course,
I think we can wrap this up with a handshake and a fist bump and way to go, D.B Cooper.
And that's how we leave you, folks. That's it. A handshake and good luck, D.B Cooper. I hope hope you didn't get eaten by bears. Okay, so
but I so want to know what people think.
Yes.
If I'm going to write, there's not really a poll to do. I'm just going to put did you think he made it out alive? Did you think he, in the Spotify app, obviously is where I can put this currently. And then I guess on YouTube, if you guys want to comment on that. But let's jump into
I want to know all your theories. All right, cool. Let's jump into our game.
Welcome back to our game segment, folks. I'm Leo, your resident history ghost, and it's time for Cliffhanger. I'll give you a juicy tidbit from history, cut it off at the most tantalizing moment, and then you have to guess what happens next. Simple, but the suspense could kill you, or at least make you wish you paid more attention in history class. Ready to hang on to every word? Let's go.
All right, Jeff, so are you ready for today's game that I hopefully will win?
I'm thoroughly impressed by Leo in that intro.
Are you?
Yes, I'm ready to play the game of what happens next.
That's right. So I'm just going to go through and we're going to talk about 3 different stories, and you don't know what happens at the very end. And so there's like 3 options that we can choose from, and it's up to us to pick like the accurate one. So that's kind of the whole premise of the game.
Okay.
All right, so let's go with our first story. So the disappearance of the Amber Room. I've actually heard about the Amber Room. We could actually do a podcast on that too. I think that's a really cool idea. During World War II, the Amber Room, a chamber decorated with gold and amber, was looted by Nazi Germany and brought to Kolinsberg for display. However, when the war came to an end, the Amber Room mysteriously vanished. What happened next? So the answers or options are A, the Amber Room was discovered in a hidden chamber beneath the Berlin Wall. B, despite extensive searches, the Amber Room was never found. C, the Amber Room was melted down to fund Nazi operations.
I'm gonna go B because we suck at finding things. Just like finding
Apparently,
D.B.
we
Cooper,
suck at. That's my answer too. And the cool thing is too about this game that we'll do together is we're gonna reveal all 3 at the end. If you're okay with that.
Cool. Yeah. So I say B.
Yeah, I kind of go in between B and C, but I think I'm going to stick with you two and do B. I think there's probably no evidence of it ever being found. So that's story number 1. Round number 2 is the Great Stink of 1858. So what a name. The summer of 1858, London experienced the Great Stink, a horrendous smell emanating from the polluted river Thames. The stench was so unbearable that it disrupted the work of Parliament. What happened next? So A is Parliament was moved to Scotland until the smell dissipated. B was the smell...
They would, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would. The smell led to a major overhaul in London's sewage and sanitation systems. Or C, the British government released thousands of roses into the Thames to mask the smell.
I would hope for B, but man, I'm gonna guess C. That just seems like the dumb thing to do.
It really does.
That seems like the most, I don't know. That seems like the thing to do probably for Parliament. You're like,
I'm
gonna roses.
That'll work. Just a bunch of roses. They're so smelly. To me,
roses,
man.
See?
To me, though, like roses don't smell that strongly. So I think that's a terrible way to go about it anyway, even if you did. So I'm going to go different than you and kind of go all to the wall here with A. I'm going to go with Parliament was moved to Scotland.
In my right mind, I think you're right.
I think that'll be really funny if that's the truth, but that's going to be my guess. All right. So the last one was a story that kind of I was shocked by as well. But, and again, forgive me of the name, but it's called the Cavender Synod. So the year...
Cadaver.
The Cadaver.
Oh my gosh,
Synod.
Jacob, we both can't read.
This is the late pod in a nutshell right here, man.
It's 1:30 a.m., everyone. Just give me some grace.
Bear with us. Okay, so the Cadaver Synod. So in the year 897, Pope Stephen V decided to put his predecessor, Pope Formosus, on trial for various crimes. The catch, Formosus had been dead for months.
That's how you get him.
Was exhumed, dressed in papal vestments, and then seated at the throne for trial. But what happened next?
He's found guilty and thrown in the freaking dungeons. That's my guess.
Yeah, A is the corpse was found guilty and thrown into the Timber River.
Oh, that's baller. If this dude
Can you imagine?
Yo, that's it. That's totally it. This dude got his revenge in death. This man was after, they had a rivalry and he won. He's like, I outlived this old guy. I'm about to freaking throw him in the Timber River.
I just want that to be the truth. I hope that's the answer, because that is the most hilarious thing I could think of is, he dies and they're like, dang it, that was our last chance to get my arch nemesis. And there's like, no, man, no, we're putting him on trial. I don't care anymore. And so, the first answer was found guilty and thrown into the Timber River, which is nuts. B
We're
was
saying Timber, it should be Tiber, by the way. Sorry, guys.
Timber River. The trial was interrupted by a bolt of lightning destroying the church. So that was option B.
If that actually happened, it didn't happen, but that would be insanity.
It'd be wild. So, and the last option is the corpse was acquitted and Pope Stephen V was excommunicated. So that sounds... Can you imagine being dead, have no way to defend yourself, and somehow you get off scot-free?
Bro, I would hope for the Catholic literature that the corpse was acquitted. If he was found guilty and they all went along with it, because it's not a one-man job.
No.
That is a full-on, full-scale operation. You're getting them dressed up, a dead body dressed up to sit in a throne.
You know how many men people had to have hated him to do this? What are you accomplishing? What's the goal here? I guess just to get him, get him in trouble. But
I think the more shocking part is not even the answer of what happens next. It's more that it even got to the point of them dressing up a dead body and putting him on a throne. That's the more insane part to me.
Yeah, all of it. That last story, that's wild. So
can you imagine seeing being in the being a lawyer for sorry. You're there to defend a dead man. That's what I'm imagining.
How do you create your defense?
What are you doing? Wow. Give me the answers. That's the only one I care about right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, what is your option? A, B, or C, Jeff?
Bro, I'm going with the most ridiculous because they went all the way to the point of putting him on trial, a dead body.
Yeah,
So
I
if they don't find him guilty, then why the fuck even do it? You know?
Why exhume his body if you're not finding him guilty? I agree. I have to stick with you, even though I hate doing that with you on these game shows, but I have to do that on this one. So I'm going with A as well. All right, so let's hear the answers for all three options here. So let's go. Where did I have the answers? Okay, so round one. So the disappearance of the Amber Room. So the correct answer was B. So despite extensive searches, the Amber Room has never been found.
Of course, man.
Of course not, right? We lose everything.
Never find the cool stuff.
Dude, I'm actually interested to hear the Great Stink. All right, so round two, the Great Stink of 1858. The answer was B. The smell led to a major overhaul in London's sewage and sanitation systems. All right,
Good for them.
Heck
Good
yeah.
for them.
So that's one on me. So that's I'm up one. It all comes down to the last one, and the answer was A. The corpse was found guilty and thrown into the Timber River. What? So they found him guilty of perjury and other crimes. The corpse was stripped of its vestments and had its fingers cut off and was ultimately thrown into the Timber River. What in the heck is that?
What did he do?
I don't know, man. What did he do? Dude, he pissed off an entire town. It must have been just hyperbole. Like the dude must have been a jerk or something. There had to be more to this story. I need more context.
That is freaking wild. Like if you, I don't know. I don't even know what to say to that. But that's so funny.
It's amazing.
That's so funny because that's what do you expect? They put a dead man on trial. So
yeah. Found him guilty. Amazing.
Yep.
Well, that was kind of our game this week. So, again, if you enjoyed this podcast, thank you so much. Please, I would love to hear what you thought the answers were to our social media. So just Casual X History on Twitter, Facebook, anywhere you can reach us. I'm excited to kind of hear your answers, as well as all the crazy theories. Like, throw them at us. I want to know what you think happened to D.B. Cooper, because I still am kind of in shock that there hasn't been more evidence to this date. So thank you guys again for listening. We can end it here. You have anything else to say, Jeff, before we close her out?
Nope, but I guess, frick that Pope Formosus,
Yeah, definitely. That's exact. I'm going to research this immediately after this podcast, so I need to know more.
Yep, same.